US dollars, yen, euros, no question, the toughest nut to crack in Bitcoin is getting your hands on some when all you have is legacy funds. Jordan Kelley is the CEO of RoboCoin Kiosks, one of the most ambitious attempts at addressing the ATM question. Jordan, welcome to Let's Talk Bitcoin.
Adam, thanks so much for having me.
Recently, I had the chance to use one of your competitors' machines, a Lamasu. I was really pleased with how fast and easy it was to use the device to convert a $10 bill into, at the time, it was 0.08 of a Bitcoin. But Lamasu goes out of their way to highlight that their product is a Bitcoin vending machine rather than an ATM. Your product doesn't make such a distinction. Can you explain how they're different?
I'm glad to hear you actually made that distinction. I've never heard that claim yet, and I'm really pleased to hear that that's starting to make waves. We don't really look at those guys as competitors necessarily. We're pleased with the work that they're doing, and we're really excited to see that they're supporting the Bitcoin space. There's a few main differences. First is that RoboCoin is the only bi-directional ATM machine. And what that means is that you can actually buy and sell Bitcoin, which is something that we think is really exciting, in that the RoboCoin is one of the main cogs of providing liquidity to the Bitcoin market. The next thing that I'm really excited about is, and really where I think we differentiate, is on the overall size and hardware of the device. So we're talking about RoboCoins are they're 6 feet tall, 3x3, 750 pounds of steel, enclosing north of $15,000 worth of bank-grade hardware and technology, starting from bill dispensers that can hold up to 4,400 bills. And if you're talking about US dollars, that's $440,000 in a machine. Also, cash acceptors that hold over $100,000. We kind of designed and engineered this machine to be for real businessmen and real entrepreneurs, and kind of taking the approach of scaling their exchange business the right way. And then finally is the compliance. We're really excited about our compliance technology that we think is actually world-class. Our attorneys think is world-class. Basically what we do is we have a 3-step verification process that is absolutely revolutionary. Gives our operators the ability to fully know their customer while complying with full anti-money laundering law, and gives customers the most seamless, simple, and fastest way to buy and sell Bitcoin.
So let's go through those a little bit. So you said that it's important for it to be bidirectional, and that is definitely a difference. Is the Lamasu machine that I saw, you could only buy Bitcoin from it. And that was a very fast process, but it was one way. If I wanted to sell Bitcoin to the machine, then they couldn't do that. Since I started looking specifically the RoboCoin, I've been looking at the Kreuzberg area of Germany, where they've created this sort of robust locality that accepts Bitcoin pervasively. It makes me think that you could use these machines as a basis to create that any place you could get people on board with it. And so like some of these niche shopping areas that have been recently improved, could effectively become quite trendy too. Is that why the exchange is important?
I think that's one part of it, and really one sector is those niche communities. What we're really most excited about is that this bridges the gap between virtual and reality, virtual worlds and reality. It actually provides people, your average Joe, your noobs, if you will, a real world impression of what Bitcoin is, and it actually makes the currency substantially more accessible. So what we're trying to do is just trying to break down all of the barriers to entry for people to actually acquire the currency. I think what we're trying to accomplish here is really being seen with our first location up in Vancouver. I think that our partners up there, Bitcoiniacs, saw a great opportunity in the market. When they established their storefront, they quickly realized that the demand is incredible. The demand to buy and sell, the demand to trade, but they also realized that scaling that business was a bit difficult. They found that RoboCoin was the best way to actually do that.
So where are the Bitcoins that you're selling on these machines actually coming from? Because I know that the Lamasu machine, you essentially load up a wallet, Bitcoins are then taken from that, but you can effectively run out of Bitcoin inventory on a Lamasu machine. How does it work with the RoboCoin?
I mean, this is where the real brilliance of our machine comes in. I mean, this is by no means just a hardware machine. We're truly proud of the software that we've built in this. My partner, our CTO, John Russell, he's a brilliant mind. But basically what John realized is that option is really limiting. It's limiting for the operator of the machine. So instead, we give our operators the ability to link in their exchange accounts, so a Bitstamp or an MT-GOX, and we actually are able to execute buys and sells on the fly.
So operators don't actually hold any inventory. It's all just taking place there, so when someone sells, it's going back onto the market as well?
Exactly. It removes all of the risk from the operators, which
is that configurable for operators who want risk?
Totally.
Okay. Cool. That sounds like an interesting option. Talking about the compliance features for a second, you said that you have a three-part system, and I know that the first time that I looked at the compliance features, I thought that they were a bit invasive. But as I've kind of thought more about compliance and sort of what the requirements are just to do business legally in the market, they've started to make more sense to me. Can you go over what the RoboCoin Kiosk offers in terms of identity verification and why that's important?
Yeah, and you know what? First, Adam, I'd like to just quickly touch over, like how we kind of came to our conclusions and the journey that we took on this, because it's taken us a lot of time and a lot of thought to really figure out how we want to solve this problem. In the current landscape, buying and even selling is extremely difficult. If you want to do it on an online exchange, it's not simple, right? So you have to actually send in a picture of your ID. You have to send in a picture of your utility bill. You have to actually have a bank account. You have to link your bank account. You have to do all of these different steps. And then finally, the wiring process, it takes days. So that process is indeed the largest barrier from our perspective of actually going and buying Bitcoin. So, you have all of these different pieces of who you are, your identity that you're giving to these operators, from your bank account to your ID to your location. What we realize is we can do this way simpler. And we can do this because we have actual hardware, machines, and technology doing this work for us. So for us, all our customers need is their hand, their government-issued ID, and their face, if they want to access their Bitcoin or if they want to buy Bitcoin. And the process goes like this. Walk up to a machine, scan your palm vein. And the palm vein, if you're not familiar, is the second most accurate biometric authentication on your body, second only to the iris. There's no centralized database. There's no thumbprint database. There's no, it's brand new technology that we're leading the charge with. So once you've scanned your palm, you actually create a unique ID. From there, we have you scan your government-issued ID. And this is for federal compliance. This is in order for us to actually play ball in the United States or in any countries that are a little bit more scrutinizing. From there, we actually take the photo on your ID, and then we have you stand in front of the camera, and we have you smile for the camera. Our facial matching technology matches the face on your ID with the face in front of the kiosk. Once all of those have been confirmed with the technology, you're able to use any machine, any RoboCoin across the globe. And that process right there takes minutes. It's not taking hours, it's not taking days, it's not, you don't have to wait, 48 hours to be able to access your Bitcoin or to buy or sell. It is happening in minutes.
So these are networked machines then? I mean, in addition to being able to access your exchange account, as far as trades are concerned, these are actually machines that are talking to each other.
Exactly.
So are you building a database of government IDs tied to the palm vein scans? Because, it seems like you have all of the data to do so.
Yeah, so the palm veins are actually encrypted from the manufacturer. So the palm veins are not going anywhere. We understand what they are, and we have the ability to link them uniquely.
Okay.
We're not having, there's no real centralized database of all of these palm veins. The way that we work with our operators is that our operators, they source our KYC technology. So they source that three-step verification process from us, and we kind of work with our operators to provide them information to make informed decisions. So for example, right, if a terrorist walks up and that terrorist's name is on the SDN list, the specially designated names list, if a terrorist walks up to the machine, scans their ID, our software sends that name through the SDN list. If that name actually red flags, we then send our operator a red flag, and our operator is then obligated to inform their local authority, which actually is really cool because it gives our operators the ability to be heroes.
So that's really interesting. So with all the machines being networked, that allows users to register on one and then go to another operator's unit somewhere else in the world and use that one without having to register again. Is there anything else that you can do because you've got this continuous system?
I think that there are a lot of things that we're going to be able to do in the future, Adam. I think right now our job is to make the acquisition of Bitcoin as convenient as possible. We are laser focused on giving people the best ability to access Bitcoin.
Let's actually talk about this for a second. The reason why this is a process you put together as like a turnkey for compliance is because the way that the compliance regime is built in the United States and in many other parts of the world is there are limits on how much money you can transfer in a given day or in a given transaction, right? what you need to do is you need to affirmatively ascertain that this person is who they are, and then they can't just go to another machine and make another large transaction that's just a little bit below there.
That's exactly right, and that was why we built the palm vein scan into it. That way, we can uniquely identify these people.
Okay. I mean, again, this is like where I come back to the privacy thing, because this is, on the one hand, this seems like it's really invasive, but then on the other hand, I mean, that's just the cost of doing business if you want to legally be able to sell this sort of thing in the United States right now.
Yeah, from where we look at it, we see Bitcoin as such a much more powerful protocol than just the idea of anonymity. Where we see the value is that it's a decentralized currency that's based in math. That's the most exciting factor of what we're offering, of what Bitcoin offers. I think you said it very well. That is indeed the cost of doing business. If you want to play ball in the United States, like if you want to be able to access your Bitcoin from a RoboCoin machine, we have to play ball because they've deemed it a virtual currency. We're trying to make that process as easy as possible.
I have been, again, thinking about this a lot, and one of the things I keep coming back to is that when it comes to crimes and tracking how that works, a lot of times the moniker is follow the money. With your particular service, where you're essentially providing verifiable, assertable identity tied to specific Bitcoin transactions, and then those Bitcoins can be tracked, say 50 or 100 transactions down the line, do you have any concern, or have you thought at all about, what if law enforcement comes to you and says this transaction was tracked back to a transaction attached to this identification? Do you have concerns about your records being requested or privacy?
We're trying to build as much intelligence into our system as possible right now, so that way we can be as helpful with everything. But really, what we're trying to focus on is we're trying to give our operators the ability to be as helpful as possible. So I mean, as you're aware of our business model, we sell these machines to our operators, and it's on them to really understand their customers as best as possible. We're giving our operators a ton of information to make the best decisions possible, to make sure that that they're towing the line on the law, to make sure that they're only doing business with really good customers. It's our job to give them as much information as possible to make the best informed decisions, and then furthermore to help play ball with any of their authorities. And again, I kind of circle back to it, and it might be a little bit cheesy, but really, I think it's kind of a cool opportunity for people to actually be heroes in their community, and to potentially find and red flag the nefarious characters.
As an individual, I am actually interested in bringing some sort of Bitcoin ATM or distribution device to my local community. If I were just an individual wanting to get involved in something like this, is this even something that I should bother approaching? Are the barriers high?
I honestly think that it is 100% worth approaching. I think that right now, it's one of the most exciting business opportunities in all of Bitcoin. To be a RoboCoin operator is really, really exciting. I can see the excitement from our partners up in Vancouver. The amount of inquiries that we're seeing across the globe is pretty staggering. From Japan to Israel to Brazil to Russia to Prague to the UK, all up and down South America and in Mexico. I mean, it's spanning the globe. Right now, because the United States deemed Bitcoin a virtual currency, it forces operators in the US to have to go and get their money transmission license. We think that it's something that people should do. Like, if you're really interested in investing in this space, that is a small cost of doing business. Definitely one that's worthwhile.
So one of the interesting features I noticed about the machine is that if, I don't have a smartphone with a Bitcoin wallet on it, your machine actually allows me to print a new paper wallet and then load Bitcoins that I purchased from your machine onto that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really neat feature. I was wondering, is that tremendously secure? I mean, are you protecting the private keys on those, or is it like you print it out and then as soon as you're done, just stick it in your pocket?
Print it out, stick it in your pocket. But what we also do on the receipt, we say hey, be sure to send this Bitcoin to a wallet that you securely own. What John thought about with that was, let's try and make this as seamless as possible, and let's actually make the process for new coming adopters frictionless.
Do you see any application for this as almost a physical Bitcoin type of, one could go to this machine, get exact change, and then hand somebody the filled paper wallet? Or is this purely as a way to help people who don't have the technology available to them, like a smartphone?
Yeah, it's more for people who don't have access to technology. This is kind of what we call being grandma friendly. If my grandma wants to buy me some Bitcoin for Christmas, this is the sweetest way. She can just hand me a RoboCoin receipt with some Bitcoin on it. It's really cool.
final things, how much do the machines cost, and are there any ongoing costs after the initial purchase?
Yeah, so machines are $20,000, and there's really no future costs. Machines are $20,000, and then obviously we introduce bulk pricing once you've purchased 2 or more. The reason that we've priced them that high isn't because we're trying to make a killing on the machines. In fact, we're barely breaking even on each machine. Again, we're using really solid bank-grade technology, high-class bill acceptors, bill validators, serious technology with a palm vein scanner and ID scanner. From the operator's perspective, they're buying world-class hardware, and with it, they're getting a world-class partner. Our goal is to be the operator's best friend and best partner. And I guess this is also one of those things that I think kind of differentiates us from any of our competitors. You're not just buying hardware and we're washing our hands of it and walking away from the deal. We're going into it, together, which means that we're incentivized. We as a company, RoboCoin is incentivized to make sure that you, as the operator, are always up and running. If you're down, we're down.
How many units do you anticipate shipping by the end of the year? I know that you guys are doing a rollout in the next couple of months. I know that you've got your first store going up in Bitcoiniacs.
Yeah, so we have our first one going up in Vancouver, actually. That was announced today in Wired. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty cool. They just announced today our first RoboCoin is going live in Vancouver in a little cafe called Waves. Actually, it's a really cool cafe owned by a great, really, really entrepreneurial lady. It's going to be a wild day Tuesday when we actually finally unveil this thing. I imagine there'll be a pretty good queue for it. We launch on Tuesday in Vancouver and Waves downtown. Then we have another 5 coming live in December. And then we have just a ton rolling out at the start of 2014. But we've already done north of 6 figures in revenue, and we're trying to crack $1 million before 2014.
Has there been any particular areas where we're going to see a lot of these popping up? I know the first one's coming up in Canada.
Before the end of 2013, RoboCoins will be all across Canada. By the end of 2014, RoboCoin will be all across the globe.
Are we looking at the final version of the hardware, or is this something that you anticipate rolling out future improvements and iterations to over time?
Our job is to get better every day. That's all we focus on. Not just with the software, but with the hardware. We're going to continue to find better ways to improve it. RoboCoin 1 will be, this is going to be at least a 1 year to 1 to 2 year piece of hardware. From an operator's perspective, it's probably ideal to get moving as quickly as possible and not to wait for version 2.
Jordan Kelley, CEO of RoboCoin Kiosk, thanks for joining us. We look forward to your progress, and thanks for your work towards making Bitcoin a little bit easier.
Thank you very much for having me, Adam. It was fun.
You are listening to Let's Talk Bitcoin, the premier audiocast providing news and insights that cover the rapidly evolving world of digital money. Our twice-weekly shows include analysis of late-breaking news, updates on key technical, business, and regulatory issues, and in-depth interviews with the key people driving the new digital economy. Let's Talk Bitcoin offers sponsors an attractive way to reach a targeted and savvy audience. For more information, email sponsors@letstalkbitcoin.com.